Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling leadership, and our guide is Joseph O'Connor's Leading with NLP.
That's right.
You mentioned being keen to understand what really makes leaders effective, beyond just titles and authority.
Yeah, getting past the surface stuff.
So our mission today is to unpack the core ideas from this book, see how they can offer some practical insights no matter where you are in your career.
Exactly. And the book uses Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, as its framework,
Right, NLP.
which is really about understanding how we think, how we communicate, and how our actions, how they lead to results. It's a lens for leadership.
Okay.
So we'll look at how successful leaders operate, delving into the structure of their subjective experience, how their internal maps of the world influence things.
Internal maps. Interesting.
Yeah, we'll draw on different bits of the book, from the basic ideas of NLP right through to practical strategies for, developing leadership skills.
You wanted to get this knowledge quickly, but also thoroughly. So we'll aim for those key takeaways, those aha moments.
Yeah. That's the plan.
Trying to give you a powerful perspective without getting too bogged down in jargon or theory. It's like a shortcut.
A useful shortcut, hopefully. So should we dive into maybe the first big concept, the map and the territory?
Yeah, let's do it. That's a core NLP idea, isn't it?
Absolutely fundamental. It's the first presupposition, really.
Right.
People respond to their experience of reality, not reality itself.
So they react to their internal map.
Exactly. Our senses, our beliefs, past experiences, they all combine to create this unique map for each person.
Okay, so my map isn't the actual world. It's just my representation of it. Like a menu isn't the meal.
Precisely. And crucially, no map is ever perfectly accurate. It's just a guide.
Some are better guides than others, though, presumably.
Definitely. Some maps are much more useful for navigating the world and especially for leading others.
And NLP comes in how? Helping change the map.
Yes, NLP is seen as the art of understanding and, importantly, changing these maps to give us more freedom, more choice in how we act.
So as a leader, understanding that my team members have their own maps is key.
Absolutely crucial. If you want to communicate effectively, influence positively, you have to start by acknowledging their map, not just imposing yours.
That makes a lot of sense. How does this map idea connect to what O'Connor actually defines as leadership? Is it just about managing perceptions?
Well, it feeds into it. The book moves away from leadership being just about authority. It's not the title that matters most.
Okay.
It's defined more by purpose, vision, and values. That's what provides the direction.
Ah, like the analogy used in the book.
Yeah.
The flock of starlings. I found that quite striking.
It's a great visual, isn't it? Thousands of birds, intricate patterns, but no single one giving orders.
Yeah, it just happens.
It illustrates leadership as potentially an emergent property, something that arises from the group's interactions, guided by simple, shared principles.
So less top-down command, more fostering the right conditions.
Exactly, like those starlings following simple rules: keep a minimum distance, match speed, move towards the center, creating complex, coordinated flight. What are the equivalent principles in a team?
That's a good question. And NLP helps us figure that out by modeling.
Yes, by modeling excellent communicators and leaders. NLP looks at the structure of how they do what they do.
Breaking it down.
Right. The neuro part is the thinking and feeling. Linguistic is how language is used to connect and influence. And programming refers to the patterns of action that get results.
So you can understand how they get results and adapt bits for yourself.
Adapt the parts that work for you, that align with your own values, yeah. Not just copying, but understanding the underlying pattern.
Okay, so we understand maps. We have a sense of leadership, not just being the authority.
Hmm.
Where does the journey actually begin, according to the book? Vision and values.
Yes, knowing where you are is the absolute first step. There's that classic story.
The Irish tourist story.
That's the one. Lost tourist asks a local for directions, and the local says, well, if I wanted to get there, I wouldn't start from here.
Right. You have to know your starting point. Define reality first.
Max Dupree, quote, yeah. A leader's task is to define reality. Nail down the here before you can effectively map the route to there.
And there is the vision, taking individual hopes and weaving them together.
Exactly. Leadership involves taking those personal visions and aspirations and developing them into something shared, something bigger.
The book uses that Aladdin's cave metaphor.
Yeah, I like that one.
Vision starts like a quick flare of light in the dark cave, showing possibilities, dangers.
Uh-huh.
Then it becomes a steady torch, enough light for the first steps. And as you go, others join, lighting their torches from yours.
So the vision becomes this shared light,
A shared source of guidance,
Yeah.
yeah, and something you can come back to, rekindle when things get tough.
And this vision actually drives action, like the Sears example.
Right, Arthur Martinez at Sears.
Mhm.
The vision wasn't super complex, compelling place to shop, work, invest. Simple, but clear.
But it provided that focus. It guided decisions across the board and led to a real turnaround. Vision directs action.
So how do you get others to buy into your vision or create one together?
The leader either needs to be really good at sharing their vision in an inspiring way, or often better, create it collaboratively.
So it feels owned by everyone.
Exactly. It needs to feel achievable, worthwhile, and genuinely inspiring, first for you, then for others.
And you can't make the gap too big, right? Between
Yeah.
now and the vision.
No, that's the stretching idea, like stretching a muscle enough tension for progress, but not so much it snaps.
Keep it motivating, not demoralizing.
And for really big visions, break it down. Manageable stages, intermediate goals, like milestones on a long journey.
Makes sense. Now, the book also touches on cultural perspectives on leadership. That Czech example was interesting.
Oh, definitely. It really showed how language and history shape perception.
They didn't really have a word for leader in the way we might mean it.
Not one that felt right in '97. Manazer was too administrative. Vutz had negative historical baggage from the communist era.
Wow. So they ended up just using the English word.
Yeah, it highlighted the need for a new shared understanding. Our cultural map shapes even our definition of leader.
And the book gets us to explore our own internal images of leaders, the mental exercises.
Right, like picturing a leader and changing their size or distance in your mind. It helps uncover subconscious associations.
What makes someone feel like a leader to you, personally?
Exactly. It's about becoming aware of those subtle internal cues.
Then it lays out the 3 pillars: knowledge, authority, and example, with example being strongest.
That's the key point it makes. Knowledge is important. Formal authority has its place, but leading by example, that carries the most weight.
Because actions speak louder.
People watch what you do much more than what you say. Embodying the values builds credibility.
Which leads straight into trust. That seems like the absolute foundation.
It is. The book links trust directly to truth. Truth for each of us is what we trust. And it starts with self-trust. If you don't trust yourself, why would anyone else trust you?
Good point. And based on how leaders mix those pillars, knowledge, authority, example, the book outlines different styles: teacher, steward, hero.
Yeah, recognizing these helps you see that leadership isn't one size fits all. Different situations might need a different blend.
Like a teacher leading through knowledge, a role model through example.
Or a steward protecting values, or the hero who's overcome challenges and learned. It encourages adaptability in your own approach.
Right. I've definitely seen people lead powerfully without any formal authority, just through sheer example and influence.
Absolutely. It's often the most potent form.
Okay, let's shift to leadership in action. Substance, style, shadow. The book talks about hierarchies versus self-organizing teams. What's the balance there?
Well, hierarchies aren't inherently bad. They provide structure. But the book warns against them becoming too rigid, too authoritarian. You need that balance with spaces for self-organizing teams where innovation can actually happen.
Avoiding those power-driven cults.
Yeah, and it makes that crucial distinction between management and leadership.
Both needed, but different functions.
Exactly. Management, stability, doing things right now, leadership, innovation, renewal, doing the right things for the future.
And often, we need to wear both hats.
In today's world, absolutely. You often have to switch between stabilizing and innovating.
The book also stresses being a realist. Grounded, but still inspired by the vision.
Yes. You can't lose touch with the present reality, the challenges on the ground. Otherwise, the vision just becomes wishful thinking.
So to help with that grounding, there's the idea of a leadership CV using those neurological levels. How does that work practically?
It's an NLP framework. You look at yourself and your situation on different levels.
Okay.
Environment, your context, surroundings, maybe where there's dissatisfaction, behavior and capabilities, what you actually do, your skills, where you perform well or maybe underperform, beliefs and values, what drives you, what's important, what fuels that vision, and identity, how you see yourself. I can be a leader. I have leadership skills.
So it's a structured self-assessment.
A really useful one for identifying where you are now and where you might want to grow.
And clarifying values is central to this, isn't it? Personal and organizational.
Hugely important. Your personal values are your inner compass. For an organization, shared values provide the why behind the vision and guide everyday decisions.
The book mentions 4 ways to build that organizational vision: telling, selling, consulting, creating. Any quick thoughts on choosing?
It really depends on the context, the culture, how urgent it is, how much buy-in you need.
Right.
Telling is fast, but maybe low engagement. Selling needs persuasion. Consulting gets input. Creating is collaborative, but slower. You weigh the pros and cons for your situation.
The example of the company using the creating approach, despite the initial messiness, seemed powerful.
It really showed how that open, honest dialogue focusing on the future, not blame, can build real ownership of the vision. Patience is key there.
And the vision isn't the endpoint. You need project management, accountability.
Absolutely. Vision without action is just a dream. You need the plan, the roles, the follow-through to make it real and overcome old habits.
Okay, let's talk motivation. The book pushes back against the idea you can just give someone motivation.
Yeah, it debunks that normative principle idea. Just labeling something doesn't explain it.
Right.
Motivation isn't injected. It arises from that gap between where you are and where you want to be, driven by what you value.
And it's tied to values and context.
Yeah.
Like that story about the sales training that didn't stick.
Exactly. If training or any initiative isn't connected to people's values and the bigger picture, the why, then the motivation won't last. It has to feel meaningful to them.
And leaders need to be careful not to demotivate.
Right.
Condescension, unfairness.
Oh, absolutely. Basic respect is crucial. But beyond that, it's about really understanding what drives individuals.
Not just assuming money is the only thing.
Right. Like the story of Tony's essay, understanding what was truly important to him was far more motivating than a generic reward. We can't assume.
Which links back to values and then integrity.
Yeah.
The match between words and actions.
Yes. Integrity is the absolute bedrock of trust. If people see consistency, they know they can rely on you.
Like the example of companies saying, people are our greatest asset, then laying them off.
Precisely. That disconnect destroys trust and credibility. Integrity means acting on your stated values, making people feel valued.
And those soft assets, values, reputation, brand, can be more valuable than hard assets.
Often, yes. The Philip Morris Craft example show that shared values and purpose build intangible value, which creates a real competitive edge.
Okay, shifting gears to change. We all resist it to some extent, don't we? Our comfort level.
We do. The book uses that thermostat analogy. We each have a tolerance level for change. Resistance isn't always bad. It can be a signal.
A signal that maybe it's too much, too fast.
Or that something important feels threatened. And it mentions those common fears, not just fear of failure, but sometimes fear of success, too.
How does the book suggest dealing with that resistance? Reframing failure, downside planning.
Both are useful. Seeing past failures as learning experiences takes away some of their sting. And downside planning, thinking through the what-ifs, the worst-case scenarios, and how you'd cope, makes the risk feel more manageable, like preparing for capsizing when learning to canoe.
Makes the unknown feel a bit less scary. The Vasilevsky story was a powerful example of leadership driving huge change against the odds.
An incredible example of vision, commitment, strategic thinking, and building a movement on shared values. Really inspiring.
Now, the next section talks about guides, mentors. But it broadens the idea, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not just formal mentors. It could be supportive friends, coaches, even characters from books or film, anyone who inspires you or helps bring out your best.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Exactly. Or Yoda. The point is finding resources that help you grow, not just create clones.
I like the idea of the court gesture mentor, too. Someone to challenge you.
Crucial for avoiding blind spots. That outside, critical perspective keeps you honest and sparks new thinking. The book even suggests creating internal mentors.
Imagining wise figures giving advice.
Yeah, tapping into your own inner resources. But it also lists other resources, people, environment, skills.
And applying skills across contexts, not keeping them boxed.
That's a key one. We often have the skills we need, but we don't apply them where they're needed. Like a colleague who is impatient at work, but a great listener with friends.
So consciously switching resources, taking a skill from one area and using it in another.
Yes. Identifying what works in one situation and deliberately applying it to a situation that isn't working so well.
And influencing others comes down to clear goals, paying attention, having choices.
The fundamentals. Know what you want, watch the feedback you're getting, and be flexible enough to change your approach if it's not working.
And that Gandhi quote, small, consistent actions matter.
Hugely. Perseverance pays off, which ties into mindset, the winning state of mind.
Optimism is a skill you can develop. How do optimists handle mistakes differently from pessimists, according to the book?
Big difference. Optimists see setbacks as temporary, specific, and partly due to external factors, learning opportunities. Pessimists tend towards the ISG trap, internal, that's my fault, stable, it will always be like this, global,
Yeah.
it affects everything. That's much more debilitating.
And can even affect health, apparently.
Research suggests so, yes. The leader's mindset focuses on learning and adapting from mistakes, not getting stuck in blame.
Then there's balancing task and relationship focus.
Both are vital. You need to get things done, but you also need strong relationships. The best leaders adapt the balance depending on the situation.
Right. And the book mentions those 8 leadership styles from the Quality Journal, strategic being highly valued.
It just reinforces that different styles exist and adaptability is key.
Okay, this leads into rules and boundaries. The Roman law versus common law comparison was fascinating. Can you unpack that?
Sure. Roman law basically says if it's not explicitly allowed, it's forbidden. Common law says if it's not explicitly forbidden, it's allowed.
Big difference in mindset.
Huge.
Yeah.
Roman law tends to shrink the idea space, potentially stifling innovation. Common law allows more freedom to operate and experiment within broad boundaries.
So leaders should aim for more of a common law approach. Set goals and values, but allow flexibility in how people achieve them.
That's the argument. It fosters more trust and creativity. Think about working to rule. That's Roman law in action, grinding things to a halt.
And this connects to generative learning, questioning assumptions.
Exactly. Common law thinking encourages questioning the underlying rules and assumptions, generative learning. Roman law thinking keeps you solving problems only within the existing unquestioned rules, like Phil and his manager David's story showed.
So real breakthroughs often require challenging those base assumptions.
Yes. And the book notes that organizational learning isn't just about IT systems, it's about creating networks, communication, valuing knowledge.
Right. Okay, final section. Games and guardians. Rules, trust, perspectives. It starts by saying rules need shared values and support.
Otherwise, they're just imposed and resented.
And then trust again. Seems like we keep coming back to it.
Because it's central. The book calls it the basis of all relationships. It allows for that bigger idea space, more autonomy.
But it's not blind trust.
No, leaders are realists. Trust is earned, it's context dependent, it's a matter of degree, and sometimes it requires that leap of faith after you've done your homework.
The prisoner's dilemma illustrates this complexity, doesn't it?
Perfectly. It shows the tension between cooperating, trusting, and defecting, mistrusting. Short-term, mistrust might seem rational.
But long-term?
Long-term, especially in repeated interactions, cooperation, and building a reputation for trustworthiness, a trust trail pays off. Like the tit-for-tat strategy winning the tournament. Start by cooperating, then mirror the other's last move.
Pragmatic trust. And recognizing zero-sum versus non-zero-sum games.
Crucial. Are we fighting over a fixed pie? Zero-sum, or can we potentially bake a bigger pie together, non-zero-sum? Seeing possibilities for mutual gain is key.
Beliefs and assumptions come up again here as shaping our reality.
They really do. They determine whether we operate from a Roman or common law mindset, whether
Right.
we see zero-sum games everywhere, whether we allow for generative learning.
So identifying and questioning our core assumptions is vital, especially the uncertain ones that have a big impact.
Yes, and recognizing that misunderstandings often stem from different perspectives. We judge ourselves by intentions, others by results.
Everyone's the hero of their own story.
Exactly. So leaders need to focus on the effect of their communication from the other person's viewpoint. Judge communication by the response you get.
Informing isn't the same as communicating.
Not at all. The message has to be received and understood through the other person's filters, their channel of experience.
The book wraps up with systems thinking. Leaders as warriors and prophets managing different kinds of change. What's the core of systems thinking for leaders?
It's about seeing the whole picture, the interconnections, understanding that changing one part of a system can have unexpected ripple effects elsewhere.
Like the pressure cooker metaphor, pressure builds and shows up in the weakest spot.
Right, or how focusing only on firefighting means you never prevent the fires. Systems thinking looks for underlying structures, not just blaming individuals. Beware the obvious solution.
Question assumptions. Look for leverage points, like the Gucci example of unintended consequences.
Exactly, and take multiple perspectives, your own, the other person's, a detached view, the wider system view, the view over time.
That helps diagnose issues more deeply, like the German consultant contract example.
Yes, it moves from blame to understanding the dynamics and ultimately to responsibility, the ability to respond effectively within the system.
And it comes back to the starlings again at the end.
As a final metaphor for alignment, simple rules, trust, minimum distance, shared pace, matching velocity, collective direction, moving towards center, create complex, effective group behavior.
Build trust, balance change, foster the right connections.
That's the essence for creating aligned, high-performing teams.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a comprehensive journey through leading with NLP. So for everyone listening, key takeaways really seem to be understanding those individual maps, the power of vision and values, the importance of integrity and trust,
And motivation.
motivation, navigating change smartly, using mentors and skills effectively, and definitely that systems thinking perspective. Leadership is clearly more than a title.
Absolutely. And maybe a thought to leave people with. Take a moment to reflect on your own maps.
Hmm.
The assumptions and beliefs you operate from, are any of them, maybe unconsciously, limiting you or how you understand others?
That's a challenging question.
And consider what one small change to one of your maps might open up significant new possibilities in how you lead, whether that's leading others or just leading yourself more effectively.
That's a great provocation. And of course, we've just skimmed the surface here. Joseph O'Connor's book goes much deeper.
Definitely worth exploring further if any of these ideas resonated. Maybe dive into the NLP presuppositions or reflect more on those leadership styles.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.